Hello, YouTube broadcaster here, and we're back on Stationeers, specifically Europa, and we're going to make a bit of a video to document some tips and tricks to how to survive on Europa. And it looks like I'm dying of thirst, so we're going to rush back to the base here. I've recently kind of achieved a certain level of self-sufficiency with regard to power, and I want to share some of the strategies I employed to gaining power independence and just general overall good ideas for Europa. Um, the very first good idea I would recommend is to turn up your object distance multiplier. Do that as soon as you can. You're going to end up being able to see your base from a lot further away. You'll be able to recognize different minerals a lot further away, and just general overall, it makes things easier. If your computer's capable of handling it, crank that right up, and you'll find it a lot easier to make it home. Yeah, so there's a few strategies. I think I might have restarted maybe 10, 12, maybe 15 times. Um, when you start out on Europa, don't commit on your first landing. Have a look around. If you've got some coal next to your base where you've landed, that's a great spot to start because you've got a solid fuel generator in your lander. You're going to want to make use of that coal. Coal is an awesome resource for energy to begin with. So it's a great idea to start your playthrough nearby resources that will allow you to progress a lot easier. Um, the next tip, excuse me, the next step I'd like to share, I think, is a great idea, and it's not always self-explanatory, is you want to swap your mining belt into your sixth slot. If you're not aware, when you do that, any minerals that you pick up will automatically be deposited into your mining belt. Otherwise, you'll be struggling, and I don't know why. It seems like they've made the main tool belt the default for slot 6, and really you don't have to have it there. Just leave it in your backpack. You can click it open at any time. So that's a good idea, is to have your mining belt in slot 6. The next more critical thing, I think, as far as survival is concerned, is to recognize that you've got basically everything you need in order to charge your batteries right off the bat. You're not, the situation isn't completely desperate. You've got a portable generator with you, and in your welding torch, you've got all the fuel you need to run that generator. So a good idea um, is to pop that in when you've got a low battery. Um, don't leave it unattended and go mining and waste the fuel, because you need that fuel in order to weld iron sheets to all your appliances, including your ice crusher, your furnace. So you don't want to be wasting that fuel. It's important not to let it just uh, waste away on batteries that aren't gaining any advantage. These generators, they're capable of charging multiple batteries all at once, whether you're using the portable one, the solid fuel generator, or the gas fuel generator. You'll never be able to take advantage of them with only one battery in your charger. Um, right off the bat, you want to get this two slot charger hooked up to an area power controller, and then as quickly as you can, get a power connector. They're done in the printer. You need gold, copper, I think, and iron, and you can place this down, slot it into your power system, and then put more batteries on to charge off that generator using that dual charger right off the bat, then printing off one of these chargers, you'll be able to slot everything in. And then while this is running, you're not wasting untapped energy, because you could run a arc well or arc furnace, appliances. You can run a greenhouse and be charging at the same time off of this. Um, so it's not good to just leave it with one battery on it. That's a good tip. The other is, this could be considered slightly exploitive, but if you place these walls so that the protected cell is on the exterior of the building when you drop them down, you can place another wall on the interior and also place glass on it. So you can double layer your walls. But by placing the protected cell to the exterior, you still can seal your base up. But what it allows you to do is to be able to click on these buttons, and also run the generator without having any pollutants come inside the base or any temperature. So, and the same goes with your solid fuel generator. You can click the button on it as well. I've just placed the door over top of it, but it's switched on at any time. I can drop in a chunk of coal, and you'll be able to gain charge off of it. That's your total charge here on the big battery. You can see how much I gathered there. There's 3.6 million joules that can store on that battery, and one piece of ore takes it up. Well, we'll do a little experiment here. We're at 360, say, or we were down quite a bit more before we did that. So 550. I'd say we were about 300,000 before we got it in there. So we got 200,000 joules at least absorbed into the main bat, and that definitely won't accumulate onto one battery. So as quickly as you can, in order to realize as much potential from your charging from the generators, you need to try to get one of these big battery kits printed out and have it hooked up, if you can, to a transformer. That's a 3-kit transformer. A small single kit is really all you need, but really the goal is, with your power network, is to have your generators come together all into one. So that's your gas fuel generator, and then run that into your battery, your transformer from there. Then your area power controllers can go out from there, and then your battery chargers from that. And if you do it that way, you really won't have any problems with surges. You shouldn't have too many shorts unless you really screw something up. Networking your electrical that way is the best way to go. And aside from that, that's basically power storage concerns covered. With a solid fuel generator, you can warm up your interior using flares. I think in this playthrough I maybe used, well, looks like 26. You have 40 to start. So I used 26 flares getting this room up to temperature. It used to only be a 3x3. I added these other two to the length of the building after I'd already kind of found power stability, and could relax a little and start, developing the base a little more casually. But initially, this was a 3x3 with just a single cell airlock, and that's really all you need to get started. You can throw your torch fuel in there and leave that running for quite a long while, but you're going to need to find alternative fuel for your torch if you waste it. So anyway, beyond power, your next big concern is getting your well, it's a power concern as well. Having your atmosphere, warming it up. Your batteries absorb a lot more power when you've got a warm atmosphere. So that's the next thing you need to do, is warm up your environment, pressure it up, get a active vent set up. Well, you want the one going into your base first, as you've got one active vent. You'll have to print the passive, but this will allow you to restore the air back into your base before you go out. You can just open the door from the to get to the exterior afterwards and dump and flood the chamber from the exterior without any major vacuum issues. It's only 45, 44 kPa, so it's not a major vacuum discharge when you open the door. So really, you just need one blower to recover your atmosphere into your base from the airlock to begin with. I haven't even automated this yet because I only use one active vent to leave. I just open my way out afterwards. Um, so that's your basic power atmosphere absorption charge goes up when you warm up your base. That's an important factor to establish. From there, your next concerning thing, I believe, will be water. You're going to need water. You come with 3 bottles of water in the lander, and then I think there's one in your shirt. Um, You'll have to drink that water likely in cold atmosphere, because on Stationeers difficulty mode, your hydration drops rapidly. So, generally you won't have a warm pressurized space that's not toxic. If you run the generator inside, you'll end up with pollutants. Same with the solid fuel generator. If you set them inside your base, you'll have to bring the scrubber in. You'll have to put a battery on that scrubber, and you'll need to print up CO2 cartridges for filters to be able to remove the pollutants from the interior of your base before you can take off your helmet and breathe. Otherwise, you'll do just as much damage to your lungs from breathing in toxins as you will from breathing in a low pressure or cold environment. And you'll need to do that, take off your helmet to drink. So the sooner you get a clean interior to do that, the less likely you are to fall unconscious due to toxins or cold. Um, so you'll be rushing to get water after drinking your 3 bottles and the one in your shirt. Um, you'll be able to get some water out of the canister, the liquid canister that's in your lander, but um, it'll be only about 40% will flow into your bottles into the refiller, unless you get a heater on the pipe heater on it, because the canister's been out, it's cold. The contents are stored in a cold state. I believe they come out frozen in a negative temperature. So if your water's at negative temperature, when you analyze it with the tablet, you'll end up seeing that you need to warm it up. It won't flow unless it's positive Celsius. So that is essential, that you get the heat warmer on your pipe once you've got water flowing and you've got a refiller on here. That's a major hurdle. It feels good when you hear that water flowing, and it's rather satisfying to conquer that hurdle. From there, now you've got water. You're only really 2 steps away from total power independence if you've got flowing water. Uh, from there, you can rush your gas fuel generator, and it's a kind of a volatile system of charging, but if done correctly, can be really effective at running your power for you, or providing for your power needs without a lot of cost. Like this does with just small bursts of HHO gas will charge up your big battery very easily. The thing is, without automation, without gas separation tanks and everything in place, and a way to balance the temperature in your room, because it heats up the room really quick, it can be hard to afford either one, running the electrolyzer to provide the gas, um, and or the cooling to keep your interior tolerable for you to take your helmet off. So initially, when you get the generator going, if you want to rush to get it up and running, You print an atmospherics kit and install an electrolyzer, plumb it to your water input, and then you'll output pure HHO gas at a high cost, electrical cost. It takes quite a bit of electricity, but you don't need a lot of gas to run this. When you're running this generator, it kicks off at 3 million, and you'll see how little gas it actually consumes whenever it goes off. It really doesn't take a whole lot. So the electrolyzer is capable of providing that gas, but if you leave that electrolyzer running at all, it'll drain your power reserves down so quickly that you really have to manually attend to turning on your electrolyzer, having your generator switch on. So here we are, the generator is going to run. We're at 0.84. We've gone down to 0.68. So we've used 6/100ths of MPa, 60 kilopascals, which uh, is not much at all. So you can see you don't have to have your electrolyzer providing a lot of pressure to run it, and that's the key. Just create a little bit of pressure in your line to the input from the electrolyzer, and then switch this on and off quickly, and you'll get enough charging out of it. You don't need to leave it running for a long time, because if you do, it'll quickly heat up your interior. We're at 48 degrees on the interior right now, and I've got automation that when it hits 50 or so, this temperature sensor will kick off the this fan, which dumps out, and it's only a four component circuit, that programmable circuit that you can put together that will do this. It's just two logic chips and a processor chip and a memory chip that automates both the generator running, a fan to sense the temperature when it gets too hot to dump it out, and I believe it must have turned on. I didn't even hear it. So that one turns on, dumps hot air out. The other pressure sensor over there recognizes when we get below 100 or 95 kPa, and this will switch on. So if that dumps out too much of the interior pressure to avoid the temperature increase, then this one will kick on and flood the chamber afterwards. So watch the temperature increase here with one shot. It goes up a couple degrees each time, and that's for just a very short run duration. So automating your ventilation system is really critical, and it's not really very difficult. I'll quickly maybe go over what it takes to do. This is 3 different setups, the 3 different automation circuits, one for the generator, one for each fan, and then one just for a logic reader, just to be able to display the battery. But really what you've got is, well, for instance, we've got a compare unit that looks to the pressure sensor. The pressure sensor gives us a reading. So right now we're looking at 98 kPa on this. The memory chip tells it that when it gets below 95, that it needs to throw on, it needs to compare the memory to the reader, and then if that's greater, it will go into an on state. That state 0 is off. When it turns on, then the logic writer, which ones I got mixed up. That's temperature. The writer is, where's the writer? In front of my eyes? Reader. Oh yeah, that's it there. Sorry. But that's temperature. Where's the other writer? Oh, Well, that is the pressure rider. I'm sorry, I was confusing that rider with this one. Um, yeah, so it basically looks at the compare unit for whether it's on or off. If it's on, then it knows to send the on signal to the um, pressure pump. And the pressure pump is that what I call the active vent. So really, you've only got 4 pieces to put together for each one like that, and then you've got your automation. So here's the same thing with the generator with the battery. This reads the battery. The battery charges at 3,135,000 joules or so. So you set which variable you want it to read on the battery. This reads it. Um, this will look at the memory. The compare unit will look at the 300 or 3 million joules, compare it to the actual state of the battery. So the memory, the battery, and if that's greater, then it's in an on state and it turns on. The writer will execute to the um, main generator, the gas generator, to turn on when that happens. So it's very easy to set these up. It's not as complicated as it seems. And once you do, with that, with your gas fuel generator, it takes nothing to provide for it. You can rush to the electrolyzer, but the easier way by far is to take the gas that you have in the lander for your oxygen, print up another tank connector and another tank, a nice ice crusher, get an ice crusher for your volatiles, plumb it in to your volatiles tank, and then take the oxygen and the hydrogen to a gas mixer at 66% hydrogen to oxygen, that out to a volume pump to a pressure regulator, specifically a back pressure regulator. You don't want a lot of pressurized gas. This is HHO gas, good for your torch, so that I can refill my torch here. I've got actually a lot more pressure in here than I normally do, um, but as long as you don't go over 8, 9, or 10 MPa. 10 is the absolute max. These will explode. You don't want HHO gas pressurized. One of the reasons you won't want even 6 MPa in here is because if this room gets hot, you get a runaway temperature increase. Gases expand and they explode. So it's not a good idea to store HHO. I know what I can get away with here. Um, this setup is meant so that I can feed HHO either out to the furnace or into the hydrogen or the gas generator from here. We've got a waste tank lever here to exhaust the furnace as well, and be able to dump my tank, which might as well do while I'm standing here. So that covers the gas mixing. It's really a nice way to set up your furnace too. This is using the same exploit. Um, so placing your walls to the exterior to get your seal on your base, and leaving your interior wall out lets you access these buttons with this chute. I left the chute powered. You can dump your coal in and it'll drop your ores out right here, and it's really easy to run this. I'll even do a little demonstration. We've got we've got a lot of pressure in there. I want to dump that first. So we're going to vent the interior. This is running into the exhaust. um, I watched a video, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but it seems to allow you a little more flexibility with the ability to manipulate the exhaust pressure or the input pressure as well by feeding it into the exhaust. I think you can get kind of almost vapor locked in a way. where your furnace chamber will fire each time the pressure drops to a point where it can let power or let some more gas in. It'll refire over and over again. So we've put in just under 300 kPa here and firing that. See our temperature rise on the furnace. If I look at the furnace here, so we're at 1200 Celsius. We can even crank that up some more if we want by turning on some more pressure. So that's going up. If we want to raise that temperature, it's pretty easy to do. But I've got two back pressure regulators here allowing me to do this fairly safely. And so it's easy to manipulate your temperature to get it up to as high as you want. You can stand right next to this and it doesn't hurt you. Now I'm dying of thirst. I've got a headset on, but it's not very audible to me at the moment for this video. So there we are, back in action here. Yeah, the furnace is very, very user-friendly if done that way. Now, I don't know if that's considered an exploit, having the furnace set up this way. But if the devs are allowing us to do it, and I'm going to get away with what I can here on Europa, and that's not using a lot of pressure from the HHO chamber. Like, we used a bit, but you can see here, well, I've got some volatiles. We're at 3.36 MPa, and you drop in some volatiles, you can pressurize your hydrogen really easily. And this goes such a long way, considering that we're only using, 20, maybe 40 kilopascals of pressure to run the generator, and we're getting 150,000 joules each time out of it. This hydrogen will go a long way, and the oxygen, well, that we can just pressure up from the atmosphere. We've got all the oxygen we want with a passive vent and a pump to be able to provide for all the oxygen side of the equation. So, and there we are, our pressure sensor just triggered this to go off because we're below 95 kPa. Once the sensor picks up that we're higher, it should click off. Yeah, looks like I did my vitality a little damage there. Didn't realize how long I'd gone without water there. If you go too long, you really only got one chance at recovering yourself. You get one pill to start with. So that's another tip: is your lander, when you come down, your lander is good for about 7 in-game days, I believe. After which, if you're on a planet that has an atmosphere, you'll likely have a storm that is explained to blow away your lander. I don't know if that's the case, if it's just this is programmed likelihood. But the trick is you want to get everything important that you're going to want for longevity off of that lander, and that includes the fern seed. There is an organics printer you can use to print up organics afterwards if you don't get them off, but they're expensive to make, and not the seed so much as the printer, and it's something you won't get to very easily. Now you have one pill, and the fern is what you need. The fern and cobalt is what you need to make another pill. This will fix your lungs if you had to breathe the atmosphere. You only have a few opportunities to do that before you start suffering, and you'll hear yourself heaving and breathing heavy, and it's at that point that you're going to want to, come on, snap to the bottom. Take the pill. So you have to be ready to grab that pill. Wow, that was really difficult. Trying to get the floor to snap down. Yeah, so part of the real joy of this game is is the ability to run your wiring, and I want to make sure I don't lose this stuff into the floor. Oh, that was a poor throw. Now, what I enjoy about Stationeers is it's kind of a puzzle game. If you want to run your cabling, this is nice and neat and organized, and placement has really worked out well for me in this base, mainly because I'd built it repeatedly, and each time I'd fail and die and go unconscious, I'd start over again. And that generally leads to finding newer and better ways of doing things. And what works, you can preserve into your next playthrough, kind of a roguelike strategy. And I like games that are difficult and present a challenge that that you have to overcome. Easy games are really no fun as far as I'm concerned. Games that test you, push you to your limits, cause you all kinds of frustration, um, can be tough to contend with, but the feeling of satisfaction you get when you finally do overcome the struggle, getting your power independence set up here, having a ventilation system that takes care of the temperature, and another circuit that triggers your gas fuel generator, gives you power independence to just basically wipe your hands, walk away. Now that I've dropped some volatiles in here, this is good for days and days, and there's no concern about leaving things powered on. This will address whatever consumption there is. You don't need solar. You could be running this really heavy and it'll keep up to your output. As a matter of fact, my plan is there's a mountain up over this way, to experiment with the power transmitter Omni, I believe it is, and see if I can align to send some power up to the top of the mountain, and be able to have a remote base at the peak up there, without having to struggle to power it. That's the plan anyway, and otherwise maybe look at setting up a trading landing pad. I've done that before. Um, the rocket would be another way to continue this playthrough, but at this point I feel that I've kind of hit all the checkpoints that I had set as far as objectives, and I feel like I've really outdone my first base on Europa back when the landscape was giant spires everywhere. The lower level altitudes were not very plentiful for mining. So building up high was really essential if you wanted solar. There was problems with the atmospherics at that high altitude, and I had corrupted game saves that I wasn't able to go back to. The developers did a great job though. They fixed the issue. I was able to go back and reload that game save and continue on playing there. And yeah, so I mean, I'm really impressed with Rocket Works. They've done a great job here. I'd say, and I'm a veteran game player from, well, I'm 51 years old, so I was there when Space Invaders and Pong hit the arcades, and so I've been playing games a long time, and this, in all honesty, has become the favorite game of mine as far as gratifying gameplay experience. That gratification comes from the struggle. Nothing difficult, nothing truly rewarding comes without some difficulty. And, hopefully I haven't spoiled the difficulty for any of you out there who are looking for an experience on Europa and Stationeers. you know, it's a race against time. This was like practicing for a speed run, setting up a base on Europa, and practice makes perfect. The one of the complaints a lot of people have is that the you're building with both hands, so you're constantly switching between tools in your left and your right hand, and it's a little trickier. It's not your typical uh, user interface, but once you get used to it, it's actually quite versatile and is very useful. You could be holding a tank and pull out another tool and placing something down, and there's a lot more that you can do with this system. And people that criticize it right out the gate really haven't given it a shot or learned the muscle memory to use it effectively. I'm not one of those who has a real good time with user interfaces. My twitch muscles are not what they used to be. My eyesight is no longer as good as it was. So, it takes me a little while. I'm clunky with UI. I'm not like the kids today. And I find I can use this system quite well. So if I can do it, the kids these days can certainly manage it. And so that's about it. I'll wrap this video up. I appreciate your spending some time to watch my advice here on Europa. I'm looking forward to perhaps making another video, and I hope I haven't stumbled and stammered over the topics of discussion here today. And I wish you all the best and happy gaming. Thanks for joining me. Bye bye.